So the first thing we did on this week's episode of AEW Dynamite is re-air that November video from Collision. I'm just going to tell you this, my friends. It is so good. Also, shout out to the person on the internet who's all like, lol, AEW is just using a song called November Rain because it's November. For goodness sake, man. Just type things into Google. Like, I don't expect any fan to know every single thing that ever happened in wrestling, but you can find this information out in quite literally 42 milliseconds. I mean, it's a homage, damn it, and I am giving it an up, because if these kinds of videos are meant to get you pumped for the pay-per-view, well, plug me in and pump me up. Shouldn't have said that. Also, hello, dudes. Let's up those downs. And this was an especially fun AEW Dynamite, because we started with a party match. For this was the Don Callis family taking on Will Osprey, Ricochet, Mark Davis, and Powerhouse Hobbs. At first I was like, Mark Davis is definitely going to turn back to the dark side. Given what happened at the end here, maybe not. Shout out to Mark though, because of course this was his first match after a year, and that is always super duper cool. It's nice when you can return. And this is when, I don't know, essentially the tag klaxon went off and everybody got into a big brawl. Davis and Takeshita then slugged it out, and amazingly Mark got the better of him when it came to the power game. And given that people were on the outside, Ricochet was like, you know what I do? Dives, and he did one. So that's fucking teamwork. Brian Cage was so upset, he basically then went and murdered Davis, threw Rick into the ring post when all of a sudden Will Osprey was here. Now, at the same time, Lance Archer took Powerhouse Hobbs' leg and he trapped it behind Simba the steel steps, and Osprey then got thrown into Simba, but of course, this was the leg that Hobbs had injured, so damn it, he was hurt again. He had to go to the back. I presume we will never see him again. Now, I started to think that maybe Powerhouse Hobbs is turning, so there's something wrong with my brain. When we had Ricochet and Lance Archer fighting, and man, do I need that match, especially because Will Osprey then got in there, and Lance wrecked him too. I tell you, Archer is another maximizer of minutes. Anytime you give him something, knocks out the park. Ricochet then got his ass kicked for a while, although he did roll through a Blue Thunder Bomb attempt. I was like, why, man? That's the least devastating move in all of sports entertainment. You don't need to waste your energy in trying to get out of the way of that thing. It's not gonna work. We also then teased the weekend because Kyle Fletcher and Will Osprey went at it, and I clocked them with my speed gun, which sounds very, very weird. And they were most definitely going 100 miles an hour. Takeshita then tagged in, and he did indeed hit the least devastating move in all of sports entertainment, the Blue Thunder Bomb. Did it work? No, of course it didn't. It never does. And this was even more pointless because Lance Archer and Brian Cage even threw the prey to Takeshita, and he still couldn't get it done. So don't you come into my house and tell me I'm wrong. Of course, right after this, Powerhouse Hobbs did limp back to the ring, and he even got the tag from Will Osprey. I was a bit like, dudes, come here. Do you actually think this is a good idea? The man can't walk. Thankfully, he was smarter than me because he lowered the strap on his singlet, which did give him a bunch more power. Once again, when we get to 2025, we should push Powerhouse Hobbs when Mark Davis hit this incredible pile driver, and he only got a 1-2-0. Then when you go, I go, we all go, when Will Osprey was able to hit a Spanish fly, but when he was going to hit that old hidden blade onto Kyle Fletcher, you know what Fletcher did? He grabbed his Australia mate and he pulled him in the way. So essentially William had just hit his own teammate. So going back to the start of this, I don't know what I'm talking about. It also meant Takeshita flew in with his power knee and he got the 1-2-3 and that rhymes, so it must be true. And actually I thought this was good booking. The Don Callis family needed a win. They just got it. If nothing else though, this was super fun times 9,000. It was one of those matches that just makes me pleased that AEW does exist. Give it up. John Moxley was then in the back with the Death Riders, and he said, Orange Cassidy, you're a snake. I was like, no, John, we've talked about this. He's an orange. A snake is very different. He also said that Orange is a sociopath. I was like, bro, you better look in the mirror. When he does have to add a 1 to the crime counter, because he said at Full Gear, he is going to eliminate Orange Cassidy. And given that it's not a Royal Rumble, that must mean death. Hikaru Shida then took over and basically told Darby Allin he was going to kill him. He spoke in a foreign language, and man, Claudia came across as the most intimidating fellow ever. And you wait till we get to that match. Allin did respond instantly as he was walking in the back and essentially said, don't worry, Riders of Death, you're gonna get yours. So you can see what we've done here. We've planted the seeds. This is also when we did get the news that the Continental Classic starts next week, so I was so pumped as I loved that last year. Very sadly, I do have to be a nerd and give it a down. Because I just think we should have been talking about this since the start of November and selling its plaudits and how great it was and how it can totally change your career. At the moment, we don't have brackets. The only person we know that's in the thing is Okada. I love Okada, but come on. So I'm sure I'm just being petty here, but I just think you can build on this because the Continental Classic is one of the best things that AEW does have. Again, the 2023 version was brilliant. That just feels like a down. Renee Paquette was then in the parking lot because she wanted to talk to the Hurt Syndicate. That's a little bit like, why didn't you just do this inside? It was kind of cool because MVP announced that Bobby Lashley will be fighting later, and I was excited about that when Swerve Strickland ran in with a chain and he beat everybody up. So we're going to bring down the crime counter because once again, this did happen outside, so it's most definitely assault. But as I keep telling you, everybody involved in this is just so effortlessly cool. I can't wait. Of course, it hasn't been the same for Adam Cole, Roderick Strong, and MJF. Right after this, Adam Cole did come out because it was time for story time. Damn it. Now, he did admit that Maxwell had gone out there and achieved what he set out to do because it's not going to be Cole versus MJF, but at least he's got the second best thing because he loves Roderick Strong and he knows Roddy will kick Max's ass. This is when Kyle O'Reilly just walked out, and again, he had been watching this situation for the last few weeks. It was like, Adam, we wrestled 14 years ago and that was only our second wrestling match ever. Ever since then, we've been joined at the hip. Not literally. It also means that Carl knows Cole, and after everything he's been through, the fact you're still going after MJF, well, damn it, my boy, I think you're a bit obsessed. Now, I can't help it. I was a bit like, isn't he justified in being a little bit obsessed? He was out the ring for over a year, and as we've been told in terms of the story, it was because of Maxwell Jacob Friedman. I mean, I would be pissed too. Ronnie is also worried about Roderick Strong getting hurt, and also, who are we talking about here? It is MJF. If you don't think he's already 5 steps ahead, then you haven't been watching the television show. He also said that deep down, Adam Cole is a good guy, which is why people do follow him, and he is a leader, and that is what separates him from people like Max, because Adam just wants good things to happen to good people. Or at least that's what Kyle O'Reilly hopes. This one he turned around and just left, and Adam Cole did look a bit conflicted. So once again, this is one of those segments that made me scratch my bald head. Because look, O'Reilly did sound good here and he cut a very impassioned promo, but I kept asking myself that question, Carl, we've both seen the same things that have happened on Dynamite and other AEW pay-per-views. Surely you can understand why Adam Cole wants a piece of it. Also, if we do go back through the story, at one point Adam and the Undisputed Kingdom did have MJF's number. They've already proved Kyle O'Reilly wrong. So once again, I just kind of think we've overthought the whole thing and we should have kept this simple. Like, I do admire the fact that AEW had to retcon this. When you try and sort of write it down on a piece of paper, well, the squiggly lines will go all over the place. So on that note, who even gives a flub about the narrative? Because do not forget what Adam Cole had to go through to get back here. That alone is way more important than anything in wrestling, and I hope he's having a good time. But in terms of me as a fan watching this, I do have to give it a down. I'll just repeat myself. We overthought it, man. That happens to all of us, but it really doesn't make much sense. Orange Cassidy then promised in the main event later he will wreck Wheeler Yuta, which is a great warm-up for him because at Full Gear, he's going to do the same to Jonathan Moxley. This is when the conglomeration walked in though and said, remember Orange, you don't have to do it alone. When Cassidy had a breakdown and screamed at him, even took his glasses off, and said, yes I do, and if you understand me, you will understand. Something like that. I do feel like there's a disconnect here, because if you were worried that the Death Riders were going to take over AEW, of course you would get all the assistance you can. At the same time, Cassidy cut such an impassioned promo here. We don't often see him like that, but it did get in my brain and make me go, ha. So we've definitely got a ton of character development here, and everybody involved has got me pumped for that main event when it was time for Shida versus Kris Statlander. Give it to me. I do have to give it a quick down though, because for some reason, this has just become Shida's role. It's like, okay, we've got a banger at the pay-per-view, but we need a banger on the Dynamite before, and we need that person to come in and have a banger, but then they need to lose to the opponent that's also gonna lose the banger. What? The point is, Shida has been moved into this position, and she deserves more. She's great. Down. The proof was right here though, because Kris and Shida did have a good match, and fair play to the commentators, they were throwing a bunch of nuance in. Because not only did they remind us, oh hi, when Kris Statlander lost her TBS championship, she wasn't pinned or submitted because it went down in a 3-way, but don't forget, Shida doesn't know whether she'd be using the katana anymore, because when she did use it against Mercedes a couple of months ago, you remember that bit of a wibble wobble, it didn't work very well. Story. They just punched each other to begin with when Statlander did go Karate Kid because she swept the leg. When Shida came back with a Hurricane Rana, but Statlander was like, nah, I'm going to cut well out of that. I bet somewhere Jack Cartwheel was like, I'm gonna sue. Shida then kneed her right in the face because this was a proper fight when Statlander came out with a sit-out buster for a 1-2. Then somehow Shida kind of stopped her finisher. She gave a big slap to Statlander, which sounds like the name of a new EP, but Kris totally no-sold this. And I tell you, Kris Statlander's another one. In 2025, we should push her big. Shida then whammed her in the nose right again when she thought about doing the katana, but she was like, oh no, I don't have the confidence. So she went for the Falcon Arrow instead. But obviously that again only got a 1-2-0. It was also a mistake because Shida was then like, screw it, I am going to go for the katana. Totally failed. She got hit with the Wednesday Night Fever, uno, dos, tres. Now they shook hands because they are friends when Mercedes Moné and Camille came out instantly. And Camille had her arm in a sling here, which goes to show, if you are going to commit Grand Theft Auto and murder, make sure you do it properly. Moné had a mic as well, so instantly dissed local sports teams to get all the heat, when she also said, Kris Statlander, you held this belt for not that long, and I held it for a lot longer. She was more poetic than that. Despite her injury too, she then told Camille to beat these guys up. Of course, Camille got her ass whipped. This may be something we need to visit down the line. Camille was meant to be a monster, and I don't think it ever worked out. Mercedes tried to use that to sneak attack Statlander, but of course she reversed the polarity and she hit the Wednesday Night Fever and held up that TBS title. You know what that means? She's definitely losing at Full Gear. I think this match is going to rule though, and I enjoyed Kris versus Shida as well. So all of this has just kind of been a nice build that should peak on Saturday. Give them a good 20 minutes too. I think they will cook up. MVP and Shelton Benjamin were backstage because they thought they'd found Swerve Strickland, but it turned out just to be Swerve Strickland's coat. I mean, that happens to me all the time. I thought I saw my friend Tom recently. It turned out it was just Tom's toothpaste. To be fair, Swerve had just given his coat to somebody else as a trick. This poor guy got beaten up by MVP. So if Strickland ever asks you to do something for him, say no. It was all setting up Bobby Lashley's AEW debut match though, when he was taking on Joe Keys and Cheeseburger. It was nice to see that guy. He's an independent legend. Of course, Bob absolutely destroyed these two as well. Some of the bumps were horrific, but fair play to Joe Keys. At one point, he broke up a pin because he wanted to win the match. It did not go well. Of course, we got the spine buster, the spear, and the hurt lock, and Keys just totally passed out. This Bobby Lashley man. I don't know what it is, but I love it. Swerve was hit instantly because he was being polite and waiting for the end of the match, although instead Prince Nana just walked out. So Shelton Benjamin went up to him and said, you gotta get out of here. This is when it turned out it was a big ruse because Swerve Strickland appeared from beneath the ring. And not only did he stomp Bob, but he essentially took out the entire Hurt Syndicate because he's a badass. So this was simple but effective stuff, but it is working oh so well. And honestly, out of everything on Full Gear, I think this is my most anticipated match because I cannot believe at the end of 2024, we get Swerve versus Lashley. I mean, this is just ticking all my boxes, which sounds very weird. Let's get it up. Renee was then with Mariah May and Mina Shirakawa, who said that this weekend at Full Gear, they will have Mariah's title celebration. She won that thing in August. They're also going to team up on Rampage when I swear Mariah said she takes shits and makes them shine. Not sure I ever want to see that on TV. They then danced because of course they did, and I think this is the big build up to the return of Toni Storm at the pay-per-view. And if not, well, we still have a few days. I would change that right now. When it was time for Claudio Castagnoli versus Darby Allin, and while you would have been able to predict this even before the bell rang, my word, it was bloody brilliant. I mean, it was basically Claudio just throwing Darby around the place, and even early on when Allin went for the coffin drop, Castagnoli caught him and hurled him into barricade. That looked disgusting. Claudio then walked up some of the steel steps with Darby in the suplex position, and even when they fell to the outside again, he just gorilla pressed him back into the ring. This was genuinely impressive stuff. Alan then tried to hit all of these dives, which worked for a little bit until he tried a drop of the coffin again, which is when Claudio smashed him right in the penis, when he also did the big swing into Simba the Steel Steps. And as always, we don't try and protect Darby here, I would imagine, because that's what Darby says. This guy just took it right on the head, essentially. It was crazy. There was this amazing part when Claudio's power worked against him and Darby was able to hit the code red for a 1-2-0. And you could have bought that because it is Darby Allin, when I kid you not, they were back on the outside, standing on Allin the announce table, when Claudio Castagnoli picked up Darby above his head and threw him onto Timmy the Timekeeper's table. I cannot do that justice. You have to see it. And the commentators sold this like he was dead, Because I tell you, if that had happened, I'd be like, of course Darby Allin's dead. You just killed him. Now we teased this could have been a count out and I would have bought that. But instead, Allin got back in the ring. Castagnoli hit him with a death lariat. And my word, he pinned him for the 3. I wasn't ready for it. Doesn't underline that we're going to take our time with Darby though, because I'm convinced he will become the AEW World Champion in 2025. But what an amazing win for Claudia and an amazing win for the Death Riders. I think this was super important for AEW to do this, because while it's great that John Moxley get a bunch of victories, you have to sell the group as a threat. That's exactly what you just did. Also, this was so entertaining. Even though I do worry about Darby Allin's health, I'm absolutely going to give it an up. It may have been the highlight of the day. Private Party then made it clear they will be ready for Full Gear, and that rhymes, so they're probably telling the truth. When AJ and the Costco crew walked in. Some people are so mad about this. I don't care. Wrestling's done goofy stuff since day one. But it means nothing to me, because these people are nothing in the United Kingdom. I just watched it and shrugged my shoulders. Good for them. I'm glad they're getting an opportunity. In between all this too, we also had one of these very highly produced MJF videos. The first thing he did, he pulled up in a very expensive car, and he threw some money at a homeless person. That wasn't very nice. Then started to talk about the fact that he will be facing Roderick Strong at Full Gear, and that he knows that 1, Roderick Strong's parents were alcoholics, but also 2, when he was a kid, in front of Roddy, his mum shot his dad. I was like, oh no, we're doing this again. Max then went into how traumatic this must be and why it proves that he's Adam Cole's lackey, because Adam Cole fills him with all the positivity he never got as a kid, and he needs that in his tum-tum. Of course, MJF then spun this to say it's just Adam Cole being manipulative, which is why come the pay-per-view, he is going to finish Roderick Strong off for good and make him regret anything he's ever done in his life. He also called Strong white trash and said, by the end of the night, you will start wishing that your mum didn't shoot your dad and she shot you instead. I was like, that is words that have just come out of somebody's mouth. So look, the feud is all over the place. We have talked about it. But in terms of lighting a fire under the damn thing, well, yep, I do believe MJF just went Britney Spears and he did it again. This was doubly true because right after this, we were with the Kingdom ready for Ken. They were talking to Roderick Strong. And yeah, the way he responded, well, that was good too. Because he doesn't regret anything that did happen to him when he was a kid and he has broken this cycle. Although when it comes to MJF, he would never understand anyway, because every single thing that he's technically earned is not true. It's been handed to him on a silver platter. For the last few weeks too, Roderick hasn't been able to sleep. But I was like, bro, you need to get some sleep. You've got a big match of the weekend. But here is the point. Once he does break Friedman's back, like he is flipping Bane, which he will do at Full Gear, he shall go home and finally get his 8 hours. So if you put these two people in a room, they're both totally nuts. So yes, in terms of where we have gone, in terms of trying to set up a match, I am going to give it an up, but I tell you, after what they've said, if Roderick Strong does now turn heel, well, I may fall on the floor. Once again, that wouldn't make any sense. 2 + 2 = potato. We then do have to bring down the crying counter though, because we saw what happened after Collision and good grief. But basically back then, we saw Matt Menard and Daniel Garcia essentially tie Jack Perry to his bus, whereas after that, apparently, they took him into a warehouse and they tied him up to a chair. That's called kidnapping. They also dumped water on him, so I was getting a bit like, what? This is when Jack Perry was like, see, Daniel Garcia, you're just like me. And Garcia responded by going, no, I just want to wrestle. I was like, dude, it doesn't look like it. It looks like you want to do a lot more. Dan's point, though, was that wrestling is full of low life, so sometimes he does need to get down to their level. But the point is, he'll never get in the bushes, which is when Perry went, and he spat right in his face. Do you know what Daniel Garcia did? He got a crowbar, and he broke the lights on his truck. Even Jack was like, is that all you've got? I sort of felt the same. But actually, you could spin that on its head, because Jack Perry, all he did was spray paint a title, whereas if you watch this from a particular point of view, well, Daniel Garcia is flipping committing war crimes. Eventually, he did just storm out of the place as Matt Menard, who was on camera work, said, Jack Perry, you've got a horseshoe up your ass. And given the setting here, I mean, maybe he meant literally. It also means, of course, there will be no match this weekend because Jack Perry is trapped in a warehouse, unless Matt Menard is going to tell someone. And this was super interesting. Like, a lot of it was all over the place, but at the same time, it was shot really well. It looked quite cool. And by the end of it, I said, well, am I more excited about the match? The answer was yes. That's the whole point. When you are building up to a pay-per-view, I also kind of feel like Daniel Garcia may win that TNT title. Why the flap not? give it an up. We have the Chris Jericho Ishii ROH signing after this. And what I liked about it straight away is they were doing this in the back on a table, so it felt different. Chris was also like, I can't sign this, I don't have my legal team with me. It's like, bro, you've known about it for a week. Chris Jericho then tried to leave, but Ishii then started to stalk him like he was a creature from the deep. And he never actually got that fast, but Jericho sold it wonderfully. And I have to hold my hands up and tell you, it was very entertaining. By the time they got to the ring, Chris even tried to calm Ishii down by saying, listen, bro, I don't even have a pen. But Ishii were like, well, I've got one, so you better sign it. Jericho was so scared he did do this when, of course, Brian Keith was here, and Big Bill was here, and Mark Briscoe was here, and the conglomeration were here, and they all got into a big old fight. But eventually Ishii also got the pen, and he signed the deal. The match is on. So you know my thoughts on all of this. I don't think we should mix up the ROH AEW stuff as much as we do. There's do for the comments. But once again, if a segment is there to make you laugh and to make you feel warm fuzz in your tum-tum, I'm giving it an up. Thought Chris Jericho is very good here. His facial expressions, genuinely funny. Jamie Hayter then got mad because last week Julia Hart's video had interrupted her speech. I like things like that. We're connecting the dots. She even said she doesn't even know why Julia would have a problem with her. When the brand new Julia Hart video interrupted, we're getting a feud. It was similar to the other two that we have seen, and Brody King was involved. And he even said that Julia Hart is the keeper of secrets, so she knows that thing you did. Still, this is going to be a feud, I presume, and I did not have that on my 2024 bingo card. And if we do take some time with it, I think it could be very good. Which is when we did get to our main event, Orange Cassidy versus Wheeler Yuta. And as always, there's some people going, yeah, we shouldn't have put these two people in the main event. What are you talking about? If you actually want AEW to embrace its original stars, of course you do. How else are you going to build them? It's called risk versus reward. If nothing changes, nothing changes. Wheeler Yuta is now properly screwed up too after everything the Death Riders have done to him. And he was going after Orange's ear at one point, and he even dropped him with a brain buster. So now we've learned two very important things. Even though Cassidy isn't orange, he has an ear and he has a brain. We'd also exposed Tina the Turnbuckle at one point and kind of smashed Orange Cassidy's face into it. So yeah, he's been totally corrupted. Somehow turned into a slugfest, but even when Orange tried to get back into this, Wheeler Yuta just cut him down with an angle slam. That's when you knew that he was going to lose, but we were giving him so much, he did come across like a threat. Thankfully, Cassidy then realized whenever break your fingers, you can't do much, and that did work, because he got a Mission No Code driver for a 1-2-ooh. But Wheeler then got up, and he hit a tombstone. He got a 1-2-ooh as well. The anvil elbows then came into play because that is the Riders of Death's secret weapon. Although when the cattle mutilation didn't work, because Orange Cassidy kind of jiggled out of it, Yuta got so pissed off, not only did he went and get a chair, but he swung it. How is that not a DQ? Cassidy has been in this position before though, so he did use the most devastating move. In all of sports entertainment, surprise drop to get the 1-2-3. And while I know that he has done that maneuver before, I was a bit like, this is the guy that's going into the main event of Full Gear. I think he could have won with the orange punch and be done. He was boned either way because instantly the Death Riders along with Pac were here. And they basically got duct tape and they tied him up, which made me instantly think about the crime counter. Moxie then slapped him around. This was genuinely uncomfortable. But do you know what Orange did? He came back with the little kids. I'm sorry, man. That is so poetic in one way. I know, like in real life it would be stupid, but it's not real life. It's wrestling life. I thought that was well thought out. They really did do a number on Orange, though. I was kind of watching it through my hands, like, I can't take anymore. And when they did walk away, the conglomeration did come out to untie their friend, because again, Orange had told them, I don't want no help. Cassidy also sold this like maybe he has bitten off more than he can chew, but at the same time he is Elton John, because you just did whip my butt, but I'm still standing. Now the big other part of this is afterwards Excalibur sold on commentary huge that whoever does win at Full Gear and becomes the AEW World Champion controls AEW, and while I have been enjoying that story, I don't think that element has come across at all. Like at the moment the Death Riders do feel cool and like they are running amok, but they don't care about anything that's happening with MJF, they don't care that anything is happening with the Hurt Syndicate, so it's not like they're the be-all and end-all, it just kind of feels like they've picked a certain percentage of the show, and it's just that they're going to take over. So that doesn't mean I'm going to split my scores, because I really like this main event. I thought the angle afterwards was a great way to convince you should buy the pay-per-view, and almost make you think, well, maybe Orange Cassidy can win, although he isn't, so I am going to give it an up. But yes, I do not feel like the controlling stake of AEW is on the line. So that part does get it down, but coming out of Full Gear, maybe we need to really double down on that. Still though, overall I thought this was a really good go-home episode of Dynamite when it comes to Full Gear. I wanted to watch that damn show anyway, but now I've increased it by 7.2%. It's getting it up. Also, my friends, please do let me know what you thought about last night's Dynamite in the comments below before you like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Click the video on the screen, which is ups and downs from Monday Night Raw, to get all my opinions on wrestling. But otherwise, I shall see you at the weekend when we do up those downs for Full Gear. Take care. I'll see you then.